Two, one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting film journey here on Inside Movies Galore. I am one of your hosts, but tonight we are finishing up the month of Halloween horror as we are continuing our obligation to maybe give you a few chills. But let's go over to our good friend Jake, who has provided us with the film that he subjected us to this week. So tell us a little bit about it.
Well, and forgive me if I seem a little distracted. I have a very large cat trying to get up, be part of the conversation, apparently. We are looking at the 2016 movie directed by Dan Trachtenberg, I do believe, called 10 Cloverfield Lane. And for those of you who, I believe we did cover the first Cloverfield several months back, right?
Yes. In fact, I pulled it up and kind of looked at it just to see who actually showed up because I could have sworn that Dustin was on with us, but I guess he was not. That was back when Dane was actually still with us, so it might have been a little bit further back.
It was a minute. It was a minute ago. Unfortunately, we have had some good folks in the past that rarely come visit us nowadays. But this one is a movie that, strangely enough, was actually written by Damien Chazelle along with Josh Campbell and Matt Stucken. Came out the same year as, I believe, as Chazelle's directorial debut, a little film that I believe we also covered, Whiplash.
Okay.
So this was a very interesting, for a kind of sort of sequel to a found footage monster movie. We've got this film that stars John Goodman, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and John Gallagher Jr. And it's actually one that, well, we'll do the brief synopsis. A young woman is held in an underground bunker by a man who insists that a hostile event has left the surface of the earth uninhabitable. You know, as you do. So let's go ahead and go around the room here. And we'll start with you, Tammy. Is this your first time with 10 Cloverfield Lane? And what are your basic impressions?
I think I've seen it one other time. I believe David and I watched it one other time. Because I remember him trying to get me into watching it because I wasn't impressed with the original Cloverfield at all. So I was kind of like about watching anything else that was Cloverfield. So, I thought it was decent. I mean, I wish you could have seen more of the monsters or invaders or whatever you want to call them before the end of the movie. You know, I mean, the movie makes you wonder if there is really anything out there or if John Goodman's character is just pulling your leg or what, you know? So, I mean, it keeps you wondering which yes or no, but you don't see anything. You know, you're going by how he's acting and what he's doing to make you wonder, you know?
And then last minute, oh, we have monsters.
Right. So, I was kind of disappointed in that aspect that, there wasn't anything about the monsters until the end. But other than that, it kept you guessing and kept, and John, you know, I think John Goodman's a pretty good actor, and so I think he pulled it off pretty good about, making, you were really wondering, about him because all kinds of things kept coming up, and it's like, is this dude just psycho or, you know? So, I mean, yeah, it was good. It kept me interested, on that aspect. I just wish there would have been more monsters.
Okay. Um. Well, how about you, Dave's? I guess Tammy already answered the question of whether this is your first viewing. But what's your background with this one, and what are your first thoughts?
Well, I will say that I think this viewing was her second, uh, and my second, I believe, because I picked it up on DVD for like $5 in like the Walmart $5 bin or whatever, and I ended up enjoying this one, and then going back and because I'd always heard hatred of the movie from those around me, and yet there was a lot of hype about the original in the theater. I believe I remember the internet buzz of it, and I guess there's a lot of mixed views on the original film. And so after seeing this one, I went back and watched Cloverfield. I actually found it for $1. Um, so at least I wasn't entirely raped over the coals for it. Um, so yeah. After seeing the original and watching this, they're entirely two different animals. Because one is great. I love this one. Uh, um, it, it, I mean, it's not just the fact that John Goodman's in it, but he plays a very psychotic character, and for some reason, I do like films that have psychotic people in it. And he's just that much of an off. There's just something a little off about his character.
Put it mildly.
That is left of center or right of center, whichever you want to put it. And you don't know whether you want to feel sorry for him or not. But the things that come up just definitely push you that much closer to not really giving a shit about it. But it was enjoyable. I'm glad it was kind of it's always interesting when they do a one setting film where everything is done in like mostly one place. So I thought the atmosphere of it was definitely there. It did definitely make you wonder, at least the first time, what the hell was going on. And this one's my favorite of the franchise, to be honest. So I would like to go back and rewatch the Cloverfield Paradox and Cloverfield myself, probably on my own, because Tammy doesn't like it. Me, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at first because you could barely see the monster. But as the sequels started to come out and it connected with the other one, then is when I actually went back and watched it, and I like it a little better now than I did then. So
okay.
But those are my thoughts on this one. I
Good
think
deal.
this one was the best in the franchise, even though I could say all three of them are kind of like standalone shared world films.
Right. All right. And and before I go, you said Brandon had left us some thoughts to share on his.
Yes, he
Okay.
had said that he had watched 10 Cloverfield Lane some time ago, and he really likes John Goodman as an actor, and he really liked this film. And he thought that John Goodman brought a lot to the film, and he enjoyed this one above the other two. So,
Okay.
even though he liked Cloverfield, me, on the other hand, I was mixed. I'm still a little bit mixed, but I'm definitely more right of center now than I was before.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. And for me, I kind of came to this one in kind of a weird, I guess you might say, in kind of a weird way relative to how a lot of people would. And earlier, Dustin was asking, we'll see if he is able to make it tonight, but he was asking about, do you need to see Cloverfield first? I was aware of Cloverfield. There was a ton of hype about it, but I never really had any interest in it.
I didn't
Uh,
either.
it was kind of like it was on my radar. I felt like I was going to need to see it one day, but there just wasn't a fire under my butt to go see it. or to get hold of it or whatever. But
Same.
when this one came out, one, and you said there was a lot of hate, and I don't know exactly where what the general consensus was, but I do know when this came out, the critics loved it. They loved it. They were raving about this movie. And it happened to coincide with my time working in the movie theater. And so I could go see stuff for free. So yeah, I went to go, and I was like, John Goodman's in it. Oh, okay, yeah, I'll go see this. And I was impressed. I was very impressed, and I uh, was very. I like Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I still think she was very miscast as Huntress in Birds of Prey, but I loved her as Ramona and Scott Pilgrim, and I've seen her in some other good stuff here and there. And here she is our central heroine, if you will, Michelle, I believe her name is, and she does a fine job. I'm less familiar with John Gallagher Jr., but John Goodman, I am a big fan. I've said many times he is a criminally underrated actor. And part of the reason why I think is that he often plays just affable goofs. You know, like he's the likable guy in half the movies he's in. And a lot of the times he plays characters who are deceptively simple characters. And every now and then we see him hit a different stride. He's a favorite colleague of the Coen brothers, and they definitely have had him go full psycho in both Barton Fink and arguably The Big Lebowski, both of which also we've covered on this channel. So check those discussions out. And I would argue those are two of his best roles. I do believe this is one of his better roles. And this is a really good example of an actor known for playing likable characters. who's just goes dark. I mean, he is dark here. And you guys kept talking about you don't see the monsters. I would argue the monster in this movie is his character. And the aliens are incidental. It's almost like when Michelle finally encounters them, she's like, oh, it wasn't total bullshit. And I almost think it's more effective that they waited until the very end and let her realize, oh, yes.
Well, maybe he was halfway right.
Yeah. It's like, yes, he was manipulative.
He wasn't quite as crazy as I thought he was.
Well, yes. Well, like I was going to say, like he is manipulative, and he clearly has anger control issues, and he's clearly a pervert who we realize has committed murder, and not just the one he commits on screen during the movie. He has abducted and murdered a young girl. Spoiler alert, by the way, people. But if you watch this channel, you know we spoiler the shit out of stuff.
Yes.
But it's it's like she knows she ran away from a terrible situation, but now she's realizing, oh shit, he was lying about what. Well, I don't know if he was fully lying, because the way this guy's brain works, he probably believed half the shit he was saying. But
I think he had been so alone in that bunker of his.
Well, yeah.
The woman the young girl that he abducted, he thought was his actual daughter. In that little demented mind of his.
I'm not so sure he thought that, but it's at the very least he was trying to make that so. Like let's say I don't know if he believed that fantasy, but he wanted to. Let's put it that way. But yeah, it's and we'll get into that as we go, obviously. But so basically, and also I'll come back to another one we've covered on the channel, Jaws. Established a precept in horror that I happen to be a pretty big proponent of, the idea that oftentimes less is more. Like, something can be scarier if you hint at it rather than full on showing it. So that's where I fall. I understand, like, there can be different ways, especially if you just look at it as a monster movie. You're like, this is different. And really it is, Dave. You are right. This is a completely different creature from Cloverfield. Like, they're
all completely different creatures. Because the first one, Cloverfield, that's a found footage kaiju movie.
I still haven't seen Paradox. And actually, I started to say, and I forgot, because we've covered Cloverfield on the channel. That was the first time I had seen that movie. So I started to say, and I didn't finish saying, that I saw this long before I saw Cloverfield. And so now I've seen this one twice, and this time I watched it having watched Cloverfield. I know there's a lot of Easter eggs, but to be honest, I don't really think anything leapt off at me like, oh, I recognize that from Cloverfield. No, I think you almost have to be familiar with Cloverfield to get the Easter eggs. Like, it really does stand alone as its own movie. And yeah. And like I said, I still haven't seen Paradox. Maybe one day I will. My understanding is that one builds on both movies, but it's still... And you talked about hate. From what I've heard, Paradox got a lot of hate.
Yeah. It got a lot of hate, and it's entirely crazy in its own. But it's still well more likable to me than Cloverfield.
Really?
So,
Okay. I actually was not. And when I finally saw Cloverfield, I was like, that was pretty good. I mean, I thought it was overhyped because, again, I remember there was hype out the wazoo when it first came out.
oh
Um,
yeah, it was
I thought it was incredibly overhyped, but when I finally saw it, I was like, this isn't that bad. Um, Not my favorite. I mean, I do like this one a lot better, but mostly because this is more my kind of thing. Like kaiju movies, I can enjoy. Um, alien invasion kind of movies, or I even can do found footage. It doesn't really, but really psychological horror is much more my bag, and that this is full on psychological horror. And so it's like it's a monster movie that's not really about the monsters. It's kind of like I also worked at the theater when
and yet it is.
what's that? Well,
I
yeah,
said it.
yeah, but you know what I mean. Like it's like when I also was working at the theater when Guillermo del Toro's Crimson Peak came out, and Crimson Peak was being sold as a ghost story, as a haunted house story, and people hated it because they were like, well, it's not a ghost story, it's not creepy at all. And I'm like, no, it's a gothic love story with ghosts. So
And I think it's actually very much an artistic piece.
well, it is, but that's what it is. It had ghosts, but people hyped it up as a ghost story, and I'm like, no, no. And now partly that was the fault of the marketing team, but a lot of that was the hype, which turned out to be wrong. you know,
More of a haunting than a ghost.
What's that?
It's more a haunting.
Well, no. Again, it's a gothic love story. Like it happens to have ghosts, but it's really more of a romance than anything. So
True.
so that's a again, that's a different movie. That hopefully we'll cover one day. But it's a I don't think we've done that one.
No, we have not.
I think with Del Toro we've done The Shape of Water and Pan's Labyrinth. Were there any others so far?
I don't think we've done any more than that.
Yeah. We'll need to hit some more of those eventually. But anyway, I'll just say again, I've said before, Pan's Labyrinth friggin' rules. But anyway, let's launch into it. So the movie starts with a pretty extensive dialogue-free opening. Which is kind of an interesting way of doing it. But we see Michelle rapidly packing her things, get the hell out of Dodge. And it's obvious that she's upset about something. As she's driving away, we get a phone call. And the phone call, it's worth knowing that this movie is...
Before she gets the phone call, she stops for gas. And there's a vehicle that pops up behind her that she evidently looks at it kind of mysteriously. But then she goes on her merry way and gets that phone call.
Right. And the phone call is it's worth noting that this movie is a Bad Robot production. J.J. Abrams is the producer behind it. Like I said, the pedigree was pretty great. And Abrams has a long... What's that?
I was going to say J.J. Abrams is well known for his camera flashes in his movies.
Yeah. Abrams also is also got a long history with certain actors who he's one of those people that oftentimes gets people to just kind of, hey, you want to do something? And they do it. And this phone call that we get, that Michelle gets, is from her boyfriend, Ben, who she's clearly running away from. He is the co-star of a show that Abrams was attached to back in the day, a little show called Alias. And one of the key actors in the show was Bradley Cooper. So he is our voice of Ben. And he calls to get sort of kind of apologize / get an explanation of what's going on. And Michelle just lets it go to voicemail. So we get a feel for what she's running from.
Yep.
And I believe there have been a couple of hints that something's not right in the world, but that's they've just been like flashes. So far, it's mostly been just this drama of this woman running from something that we find out is a boyfriend. And then out of nowhere, her car gets totaled is putting it kindly.
It gets pummeled, man. It's just wow.
It is so quick.
She gets blown off the road by something. And yeah, it's pretty quick.
When she wakes up, chained to the wall, man.
Yep.
I mean, it was so quick that I even asked David, I said, did we miss something? What hit her?
Right. And to make it even more abrupt, they go straight to the title card right after the accident. And then, yeah, as Dave says, she wakes up chained to a wall, Saw style. And then she, of course, freaks. Well, she wakes up. She's got an IV drip in her arm. The blood on her head is caked so bad that her head, you hear it tear when she turns her head off the pillow. Like, that's so lovely. And she's got a brace on her knee that is attached to handcuffs chained
and
to
at
the
first
wall.
I thought that maybe she had a prosthetic leg on or something like that because of how large that knee thing was.
Yeah.
But once she started walking around, I realized, okay, yeah, she still had her leg. But at first I was like, did she lose her leg?
Yeah. Well, at first you kind of do wonder, like, I guess maybe there was a bit of a splint there, but it almost looks like it doesn't take her too long to start moving around decently well. So it must not have been a major leg injury. But
first he pops in like really quick.
Well, yeah. She's like freaking out, like flipping out. She yanks the IV out of her arm. She's clearly in a. It almost looks like a cell. I mean, it's basically they're in a bunker. They're in an underground bunker, but he has chained her up in a room that really has nothing there. It's just a mattress on the floor,
except an air vent.
Except what?
An air vent and some wall light.
Well, I mean, as far as like stuff in the room, like it's basically she is on a mattress on the floor, and actually not even really a mattress, more like a just like almost a sleeping bag and sheets. Maybe a futon.
It might just be a cot mattress.
Like I said, I don't even know it was a proper mattress. Like I say, it was so thin. But whatever the case, they ain't much in that room. That's the point. She's freaking out, as you would in that situation. I'm not sure I would have been as quick to pull out the IV because, you might wonder if maybe that's there for a reason. But this guy comes in, this guy that at first we don't get a particularly good look at him. We can tell he's a big, portly gentleman. We can tell that he's moving about, admonishing her for taking out the IV. He says, you need fluids. He actually brings her a meal and sets it down on a tray. And he basically just tells her, hey, you had an accident. I brought you here. I I believe this is the first time he tells her you can't go outside, right? Like I believe she.
Well, yeah, he
She-
tells her he can't. Well, he doesn't exactly tell her that.
Well, I
He
mean,
does tell
doesn't
her
she
that
ask the?
there's nobody that's going to be looking for her.
Oh yeah, he does. He does say that. She tries to get all uh, cocky, like my boyfriend's going to find me, or whatever, and he's like, nobody's looking for you. Yeah.
And that's
I-
when he basically walks out, which only increases her
Well,
panic.
before he does, he pauses and turns and looks at her. And I can't remember if we got a full good look at him before. I think we did, but this one,
Yeah.
he pauses and he's like, and my name's Howard, by the way.
Oh, and he gives her the crutches and
Yes,
says, "Start using them
right,
because you'll need them to move around on."
right,
And then he says something to the effect that because I saved you, you really should be treating me more with respect or some shit like that.
right. He says that a few times. He tries to guilt trip her uh, because of him having saved her. You know, which for a long time we're led to believe that yeah, he saved her. And then later we come to realize, well,
No,
but
he damn well purposely hit her later on as well.
right, like I said,
Figured
we
it out.
we're not
And
at that point
yes,
yet, but that's
no,
the I think so. It might be the second time. Um, did he leave her the key that time?
no,
He left her the key when he left her the crutches.
Okay. Yeah, So he did leave her the key and the crutches the first time, or
yeah,
it was
the
at the
first
same
time.
time. Okay, so
But he was very cryptic about what and why she
yeah.
was there,
Oh yeah,
and basically just gave her the crutches and the key. So even
yeah,
I would have been like, "Well, what the fuck? Why am I here?
yeah.
Why
But
am I
yeah,
hurt?"
he does leave the key, and she instead of using the crutches the way that he intended, she kicks off the rubber stopper at the end of one of them and uses the key to sharpen it to try to turn it into a pokey stick to turn it into a weapon. And then we have this scene of her standing patiently at the wall ready to stab him when he comes in. And well, obviously that doesn't work according to plan.
No.
Um, but anyway, oh, hey Rose. What are y'all's first impressions of these two characters and the scenes thus far? Anything to toss in there that we haven't already mentioned?
Well, I don't blame her for being on the offensive, uh, uh, but I also think she was being very very smart and very stupid at the same time.
Right.
I would think that if I were in reversal roles, I would at least see what was up, what the entire story is, and I wouldn't be totally offensive or defensive right probably the fuck away.
Right.
Probably to try to figure out whether I was all the way intentionally in bodily harm.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I think
I
so.
wouldn't go straight postal. That's
I think
I
so.
would I would first try to give the person the benefit of the doubt and see what was up, what was happening, instead of freaking out.
Right. I will say, as far as I see, um, I think she was being a little overly defensive and a little overly paranoid. But I will say, in her defense, she did wake up chained to the wall. And I think that might unnerve most people, especially if you see in this situation where you have an attractive young woman who wakes up seeing a heavyset older guy come in to, he's clearly not only he is her caretaker, but also her captor because he chained her to the wall. So I could see why she'd be a little on edge. I do think that once he gave her the key and explained what was going on, she probably stayed a little on higher alert than she really needed to. But that's my take on it. But maybe Tammy, what do you think?
About how offense she took to everything.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. And well, also, if you had any first impressions on these two that you wanted to throw out there.
Well, I think I think the I think she reacted like survival mode.
Right.
She didn't know where she. The last thing she remembers is that accident. She wakes up in this room like that. There's nothing in this room. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's not even a place for her to go to the bathroom in this room.
And I guess if you also think about it this way, we've already seen her running from another situation that may or may not have been abusive.
But
Yeah.
I think she reacted. I don't think she overreacted. I think she reacted with you know survival instinct. She didn't know what was going on. Didn't know where she was. Last thing she remembers is the accident.
Right.
She clearly does have some injuries. Um, she has no idea who this guy is, and he's trying to tell her basically, and expects her to believe with no proof that the world as she knows no longer exists.
Right.
You know.
Well, that the world that she knows is no longer breathable.
Well, yeah, the world she knows no longer
Right.
exists, basically.
Right.
So, as far as Goodwin's character, yeah, if I was her, he came walking in there and everything, and basically was trying to tell me all this and everything. I think I would be kind of freaking out about him too.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Good deal. So, yeah, he does come back in. Like I said, she tries to attack him, and it doesn't go quite as planned. And I believe that was when he sat her down and said, "Look, the world is there was an attack, right?" I believe that was when he told her that. And
Yeah, I do believe that
yeah, but
that,
he
that
doesn't know what to tell her as what the attack was.
right,
He
well,
can't.
he has his theories. He has
Right.
his theories
well,
and
yeah,
his
he,
ideas.
he has this theory that it may be um, like either Russia or somebody else who had brought in some chemical warfare affair and made the air the way it was.
Right, right, and so that's the basic idea, the basic. Uh, and before long, we're also introduced to Emmett. Like we
Yeah,
hear some noise outside, and she hobbles out of
Howard
the room.
goes.
What's that?
Howard goes and investigates it,
Right.
and you hear a slight scuffle, and he comes back in, and I think he kind of mentions to her that there is someone else there,
Yeah.
but then he closes the door, and she has more food.
Right. And she,
And then when she wakes up the next time, the door is open.
right. And she kind of hobbles out into, there's sort of, I guess you could call it a pantry, but it's like a rather sizable storage facility that is right outside her door. And we see him kind of sort of sprawled in, apparently that's kind of his living quarters.
Evidently.
Was that?
I said evidently.
Right. And Emmett seems like a pretty good dude. He's probably about her age. But he seems, at first, he kind of comes off as kind of a dingus, but later on, we come to realize he's a little sharper than he lets on. But he basically, we come to find out he was an employee of Howard's who actually helped him build the bunker. And eventually we find out that when the attack happened, he came running and basically fought his way in. Howard did not want him to come into the bunker, which in a sense, that's a bit of a red flag there too, that this guy that works for you, that helped you build this thing, you don't want them to reap the fruits. You'd rather leave them outside to die. That's like, well, that's such a lovely thing. But we come to find out later on, this is one of the reasons why I'm not so sure that Howard thought Brittany and now Michelle were his daughter. Either that or the bunker is not the only reason Mama took her baby girl and ran away. His interest is clearly not entirely fatherly. Let's put it that way. And I think if it was fatherly, he wouldn't have minded sharing the bunker as much as he obviously does.
True.
So that, but eventually we come to find out, like I said, we'll find out more about, Emmett. At first, he and Michelle do not get along. She is just as mistrustful of him as she is of Howard. He has an injured arm, and I believe he said that was from him trying to break into the bunker, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he also evidently had a fight with a week's worth of food.
Yeah, apparently he had knocked over a shelf and destroyed about a week's worth of food. It's kind of unclear about whether he did that because he's a klutz or whether he and Howard were fighting. But whatever the case, Howard blames him for that loss of food. But definitely, once she comes out and has that encounter with Emmett, Howard just suddenly goes into like home, what do they call it? The home network. Like he goes into real estate mode and gives her the tour of the bunker. He's super proud of it. He really is super proud of it. But he shows her everything. He makes very clear that she
This
is
not my space. This
Yeah.
is the space you do not go in.
Right. which is weird because the bathroom and shower is in his space. And he tells her, I want you to use the bathroom. And she's like, I don't have to go. And he's like, but you will. And we have to spread these things out. Basically, making very clear that he wants
Well,
to.
and because she'd already tried to hurt him, he
Right.
didn't trust her.
Right.
To not do anything, which is why he said, "I'll stand right here. I'm
Well,
not a pervert."
he does say that, which, you got to wonder. But anyway, I don't think it's just because of her, the way she acted, so much as I think he seriously, and this is one of the things we come to learn about Howard, he has to be in control. It is his bunker, and he wants complete control.
Not
And
only that, he does get some jealousy in
oh
him
yeah,
when them two start to hit it off and flirt.
well, Michelle starts flirting with Emmett specifically to piss off Howard. It's obvious. It's obvious she's just putting on that it doesn't start organically. They do start flirting. They do eventually hit it off really well. And Howard doesn't like that one bit. But when they first do it, it is very contrived and it is obvious she's just trying to get a rise out of him. But it's but yeah. So what do y'all think of the bunker? Do you think if you were in a doomsday scenario, this could be a livable solution?
Well, as long as I could bring my own shit down into it first, I guess I could deal with the situation. And it looked like they had enough food to last, and they had a workable stove. I mean, they
Right.
had bathroom amenities. It's not like they didn't. And I don't know. It seemed like they had a fair amount of movies that you could watch,
Right.
and I love that they had the jukebox.
Right.
Yeah, there was definitely entertainment. I mean, there was books, video games, movies, music. You know,
Mhm. Right.
So I could deal with the situation for maybe a year or two if I
Right.
had to. But
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would entirely like the present company the entire amount of way. Even though I
Right.
know John Goodman is a good actor and he's probably a good guy. Deep
Right.
down.
Well, I mean, and again, he usually this seriously is one of the darkest roles I've ever seen him in. Like even when he goes dark, it's usually more like flashes of dark. Like in Barton Fink, he plays a serial murderer, uh, but for most of the movie, you think he's just the most charming, likable guy. you know, and
Well,
it's
even this character can be charming.
he has his moments, yes. And
He
he
has his
does
moments where it seems like he does have a little bit of humanity in him.
he does seem to genuinely care about the well-being, maybe not as much of Emmett, but he understands that they're both in his charge, or that's the way he sees it. Like again, he sees it as it's his bunker, but they're in his charge. And I think in his way, yes, he does care for them. And this is also right around the time that he starts talking about Megan, which is his daughter. And he just starts talking about her, like just, and the way he does it first, it is kind of sweet. It is kind of sad. Like it's, and I think, doesn't Michelle says something about her or asks something about her. And he just gets this cold look and it's like, Megan is no longer with us. And it's like, and you write it off at first to him believing she died in the attack. Or at least I did. I don't know if y'all had the same impression.
Well, I thought he said that her mother turned her against him, and she's with him.
He does say that. Did he say that before or after that moment?
Probably said it after that moment.
Yeah.
Because he only merely mentioned his daughter here and there, but it wasn't until after she had knocked him with a bottle and tried to escape, and then had to go and sew up his forehead for him.
Oh, that was a while later. Yeah. That was. Oh wait, no, that wasn't. No, that wasn't that much later. Because wasn't that the first meal?
I believe that, yeah, I do believe that was the first meal, and that was that was after she had been flirting with Emmett, and she grabbed his keys,
right?
And then he noticed that the keys were grabbed, and then she knocked him over the head with the beer bottle, and then she tried to escape, and that is about yeah.
That was one of the reasons why she was flirting with Emmett, was to get a rise from him so that she could get close. Because she figured he'd get up in her face, I think. And, she got in close and snagged the keys without him noticing. And if I'm getting these out of order, let me know. But I'm pretty sure this is the part where she makes it all the way to what he called the airlock. And I think that was when the woman came up begging to be let in.
Yep, and then she said, "You bitch."
Actually, no, we saw the pigs first. So was that, when did he take her?
That's right. He did show, when he was taking the tour.
Yeah.
At the end of the tour, he was like, "Oh, I should probably show you Frankie and whatever."
Yeah. So that's where she gets to see the airlock and the pigs. And they look pretty bad. They look really bad. And it's like, ooh, what happened? And it seems to lend credence to the idea that there's some sort of really horrible thing going on in the air or whatever. And then, when she makes a break for it and she gets to the front door, this woman is pounding, begging to be let in, and she's looking really bad, like almost like her skin's decaying or something. I'm not really sure how to describe it, but it does not look pleasant. And she's pleading to come in, and Michelle pauses and goes, shit, Howard might have been right.
She's asking to come in, like as if she's pondering whether to let her in or not.
You're right.
Eventually, she does not. And, Howard did a "I told you so" moment.
Pretty much, yeah. And then, as you said, he insists on her stitching him up. And it's now, and then they kind of settle into a groove once she realizes that, it's the surface world might not be all that pleasant.
And then I think it's like they start to enjoy each other's presence.
They kind of do. We have like a little bit of a montage of different scenes of, some fairly happy music going on. Because as you said, there's a jukebox, and they incorporate the jukebox into a couple of scenes. I think
I'm Alone Now.
Yeah, they were playing. Yeah, they were playing I Think We're Alone Now, which I think was a really that was a hilariously on the nose song for that particular.
They're also somewhat awkward.
A little bit. But Tommy
It got
James,
more awkward uh, when he actually played on the jukebox later and was dancing to it and was like,
well
"Hey
later,
Michelle, you should
he
actually
puts on
play this song while you're taking a shower."
Tell Him by the Exciters, and if you listen to the lyrics, they were kind of creepy for the scene that he played it. But yeah, I Think We're Alone Now was more of it's kind of creepy, but it was kind of again kind of almost hilarious in the idea of it's this really chipper, upbeat song that has very different undertone in this particular movie. um, but we have essentially a happy montage of them actually, they're playing puzzles, they're playing games, they were
Watching movies.
watching movies, and you do see a little bit of Michelle and Emmett growing closer and becoming friends, and you start to see Howard getting a little less happy about that. The trying to recall where it leads
Oh,
from there.
there is a moment where evidently the not the generator, but the something to do with the air
Air duct.
air
Yeah,
duct. Evidently, the air duct had shut off,
right,
and she was the only one small enough to crawl inside the space
right,
and and pump something on the air duct thing to make sure that they still had air. Because if they didn't do anything about it, um, then they would run out of air like that.
right.
And while she was in there, she noticed a way to get out
Mm-hmm.
as well, if necessary.
Right.
But she did go and pump that air back on, and about then is when you get the creepy moment with him in the song and suggesting for her to sing it in the shower.
Well, and I think if I'm remembering correctly, it was while she was in that room and saw that alternate exit that she saw the word help scraped across the top.
That's right.
Um,
She also found a bloody earring.
yes, bloody earrings, and I believe kind of like the last few parts of the word were bloody, and I think she found like a couple of bloody fingernails that seemed to have come off. And at that, she and Emmett start having some rumblings of,
Well, yeah, because she ultimately shows him the picture of the so-called daughter that
right.
he showed that
And he's
Howard had showed her, and he's like, "Oh my God, I know that's not his daughter because but I know who that is. That's just a
right.
girl that disappeared like 2 years ago."
He's
And
like, this girl went to school with my sister, with my brother, or something like that. And he's like, yeah. And
And she's wearing the shirt that the girl has in the picture.
well, we also find another picture of her with Howard.
Well,
She's wearing that
yeah.
shirt. Yeah. But she's wearing the earrings in this first picture that he had said was his daughter. And that, it starts, they start getting very concerned and things get tense again. They start planning an exit, And
In fact, there's this magazine that evidently she had drawn pictures in, and we find out that she's actually kind of an artist, where she was originally planning on starting her own clothing line or something like that. So while she's been holed up in here, she's been like designing things, and one of the drawings that she did was of a mask.
Right. Well, and also we had one part where it's getting really close. That was kind of interesting. Like that shows the change dynamic. Like I said, they were playing a lot of games, and we go to a part where they're playing. I think it was it charades or not charades? It was
Pictionary.
Pictionary. Okay, that's was it Pictionary? They were using
Yeah,
words.
it was Pictionary. It was Pictionary.
Well, one of those games where you're using words and people have to guess what you're trying to say. And so we have this exchange where Howard pulls a card and he kind of chuckles, and he looks at them and he says, "I'm always watching." And they both get this kind of nervous, and Emmett's like, God, I know what you're doing. I see everything. Well, I see you when you're sleeping. I know what you're doing. And the other two are just getting really fair. I know what you're up to. I see everything you do. I'm always watching. Howard and Michelle finally, Santa Claus. And Howard's like, yeah, Michelle, except it was Emmett's turn, not yours. I'm claiming 5 points. It's like, but yeah, it was obvious that he was talking about Santa Claus, but because of what they were doing behind his back and who he is, they were unnerved.
To say the least.
Yeah. And of course, I was reminded of the Big Lebowski with his reaction there, where he's like, "I'm claiming 5 points." I heard him going, "Mark it 0." Mark it 0, dude.
Hey, Dustin.
What's up?
Hey, Dustin.
Sorry, we are greatly delayed here.
Yeah. Well,
But
we're pretty well into the story. But if you want, is this?
I knew it was Santa Claus right away. But no, this is about where I was when we were supposed to start. I was very far behind today.
Okay. Well, is this your first time with the movie, and what were your thoughts?
This is my first time seeing Cloverfield anything. I have a very specific memory of when the first one was out, and it was really popular. A bunch of 5 or 6 people I knew went to go see it, and I stayed behind. I don't really know why. I think I might have mistimed it or something. There was some reason I didn't go to. And then when everybody got back, I was like, "So how was it?" It was awful. We all hated it. It was the worst movie we've seen in a long time. Like, holy crap! Okay, and I just never really looked back after that. And
that's exactly how I felt about the first one too.
Well, I know the first one is found footage, and there's a monster. That's about it.
Kaiju monster, to say the least.
Yeah,
at least.
Don't spoil any of it for me now. Come on.
No more than that. That's all that I'm going to say.
Right.
Oh, I mean, I do know a little more than that, but anyway. So this came out quite a few years ago, and everybody was talking about it, and I just missed it again. And I'd been meaning to sit down and watch it, and we finally had an opportunity to do that for the show. Okay. So I was pretty happy with it. It was great. It did that thing that I really appreciate it when movies do, in that it does have a twist, but the twist isn't what I guess it's going to be. Like after a point, it's like, okay, there's going to be this is what's going to happen. Turns out it's going to be fine. Well, that's getting ahead of ourselves, but it's like, okay, it turns out it's going to be fine up there, except there's going to be some actual danger to be afraid of, and that part was right. It was not what I was really expecting. It was really well. It managed to surprise me while not doing like the annoying cop out of like, oh, yep, main character dies. Should have stayed down there. And it's like, yeah, not. I'm glad they didn't do that because that's what I thought they were going to do. Like the rest of it was so clever. It did kind of dawn on me pretty quickly. Like, wait a minute, why does this guy have like a secret bunker down here? And then when like the help thing was revealed, that was kind of like, oh, okay. So it's pretty. It was pretty nasty. What was going on down there? It feels like a slasher season 1 situation.
Yeah. Well, I think he.
It was mentioned that Howard had been like a satellite, someone who dealt with satellites, and
right.
had a lot of his own conspiracy theories, and that was part of the reason why he built the bunker to begin with.
Well, it seemed like that was the reason he gave them. Well, I think later on when we get that reveal that he had been kidnapping people, I think that makes a lot more sense. That's what the bunker was for, and he just told people he was.
I think it was more of a dovetailing of interests. Like I think he legitimately bought what he was selling, but he had this handy bunker that he could use for these other things too.
I see what you're saying there. That makes sense.
But yeah. So is that your full initial thought there? Or?
Oh, it did feel kind of slow. I ended up taking a break to take a shower, which probably should have done, but I don't know. It was cold, and that's how I warm up sometimes. So, but anyway, it did feel kind of slow. Like it didn't really get moving until I think really around this point, because it felt like the movie has been 3 hours long up until now, when it's like, oh, okay, we're moving at a normal clip. So, and I think we are about to be introduced to his big drum of acid, which he claims is for fuel, but come on now, let's be real.
Pretty soon, yeah. Because like I said, we're getting to the part where tensions are ratcheting up, and it's like pretty clear that the two of them are moving ahead with their plan to escape. But one of the reasons why I was talking about that one scene is, I mean, come on, yeah, it was obvious he was talking about Santa Claus, but in their situation, they thought he was onto them, and it was like,
I do think at that point in time,
because of that reaction,
right? They didn't do themselves any favors, that's for sure.
No.
But yeah, it's I'm not sure that there's much more else before the acid, but it's the but before we go forward with that, Dustin, did you have anything like up to this point that you wanted to comment on that we might have already hit?
Not a great deal, other than with like the car running her off the road.
It was pretty sudden.
It happened so quick. I missed some details. Like I thought she was actually with somebody in the car at the same time too.
She was talking with someone on the phone, which happened to. It seemed like it was whoever that she was leaving so quickly from.
Or more accurately, she was avoiding talking to someone on the phone. She had let the call come through, but she didn't respond. But yeah. But yeah.
Okay, because I kind of wonder, like, how far into what seems like alien invasion we were. It feels like maybe that hadn't quite happened or had just started. Like,
Right.
I got the impression maybe she was just supposed to be like an actual, like, normal victim that he was going to abduct, and then it just sort of happened. And then when that guy, like, that he knew ran to his bunker, he's like, well, it'd probably be really suspicious and weird if I didn't let him in too.
Yeah, we talked about how he didn't really want Emmett to come in. Emmett said he had to fight his way in, really. The impression I ended up getting, and y'all let me know what you think. I got the impression that, maybe Howard had been on the lookout for an appropriate
Second victim.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was the word I was looking for, but it works.
Maybe third victim, probably.
And he probably might have panicked because of he might have gotten reports of something happening. Because it's obvious he was listening out for, he was, like I said, I think he was waiting for and expecting something big. And when he started hearing reports, he probably went out and tried to snag someone. And that may have been why he did something as clumsy as running her off the road, He might have chosen a different method otherwise. But whatever the case.
I mean, I can buy that. I mean, that makes sense to me.
Right.
Whatever the case, he hunkered down with a warm-blooded, good-looking female, and didn't expect more company in his intended private romance.
And this was part of the. I'm trying to remember exactly when this came about in the movie, but at one point she was looking at his truck. And she saw that it was dinged up on the side and with red streaks, and her car had been red. And I think it kind of dawned on her, wait a minute, I think I saw that truck before I crashed. And I think that was part of the thing that started her going, wait a minute.
To ask questions, yeah. Although his story of I did crash into you and I felt bad about it. Like I didn't really want you to know because I felt guilty. Like that would have made sense to me. Like I could see myself maybe doing something like that if it's like I didn't really want to admit it, but I picked you up because I felt responsible.
Right. And she kind of buys. When he says that, she kind of, I don't know if she fully buys it, but she accepts it as, okay, this is the explanation he's giving, But it does definitely, I don't think she ever forgets that, wait a minute, I can't forget that,
Right.
But we ultimately come to the moment where he's like, I need you guys to come with me. I need your help with something. And then he leads them into his space.
Right before that, did we touch on they just found out he was abducting girls, and it's like Michelle is the girl, little princess.
I would have to say girl because the other picture of the other girl was his, in fact, daughter.
Right.
Was that actually his daughter, or did he just say that was his daughter?
Well, the picture he showed her, he said was his daughter, but later Emmett's like, no, I know that girl. She was in the class with my
and then
brother.
The real photo of him and his real daughter actually was dropped out of the book too. And Emmett did.
That picture was
the real. Why wouldn't he? If that was really his daughter in that other picture, why wouldn't he just show her that picture?
Yeah, I don't think that was his daughter in the other picture, was it?
Yeah, I didn't think either of them were his daughter. I don't think he had a daughter.
Well, he
Because
does.
Emmett said it's like, oh yeah, he said they left for Chicago,
Yeah.
to Chicago. And it's like, okay, so he told you the same story. You never met them.
No, I think he did. And actually, I read something. It's not really explained in the movie, or not that I'm aware
Emmett
of.
actually did say that other picture was his daughter.
It's not actually. Oh wait, did he?
Yeah,
I don't think he did.
right after he disclaimed the first one as being that girl that went missing, and then the other one popped out, and he was like, "Yeah, that's the picture of his real daughter down there."
Hey, okay, I must have missed when he said that. I didn't hear him say that at all. Yeah, but what I do know, as far as I don't know. It's apparently on the it's apparently a featurette that I have not watched. I guess I need to. But apparently there is a bunker timeline that one can see in the featurette that does very specifically give a timeline for Howard and his wife moving to the farm, their daughter being born, him building the bunker, then they leave, the wife and daughter leave. So he definitely was married and had a daughter. I don't know how clear it is in the movie that this actually happened, but the supplemental materials make it clear that it actually happened. And Emmett could be just parroting a story, but Emmett does seem to confirm this. But it definitely is clear that the wife and daughter are out of the picture, and that this other girl who went missing is the one that Howard showed the picture to Michelle and said, "This is my daughter." And it's, yeah. So, red flag warning there.
Well, a man isolated in a bunker for so much time can actually go psycho on his own. So,
but Dustin did just hit on a good point that we kind of skipped the first part of that game where Howard was guessing, and the clue was Michelle. Like Emmett was trying to say, it's Michelle.
What is she?
And the answer was a woman. But Howard could not put that word with her. He kept saying, girl, little girl, little princess. Like all these infantilizing or diminutive terms.
Which makes me feel like he was.
What's that?
Which makes me feel like he was trying to, in his mind, make Michelle his new little daughter.
Exactly, yes. And he could not put two and two together of anything, like he saw her as, and again, he may have been trying to replace his daughter, or it may be that he had an unhealthy interest in girls of that age, or it could be both. It probably was both. But
especially if the one girl disappeared and he's got vats of acid. I mean,
right. Well, we haven't gotten to that point yet, but we do soon.
Which makes me think that the mother and daughter never went to Chicago.
Maybe not. Maybe
that does make sense to me too. Although I haven't seen that timeline like you said, so I'll have to keep a lookout for the Blu-ray of this. This is actually good enough to own. So.
Yeah, I think so too. Actually, this was an excuse to finally watch my copy, but I rarely make the time to watch the bonus features just because I don't really have the time. But
I always watch the bonus features. That's why I buy discs.
Well, I try to do that with Criterion and Arrow. But if I tried to do that with everything I had, then even that, like I watched Qui-Gon the other night. Now, I haven't even started with the bonus features, but that's a 3 freaking hour movie.
I am badly behind on my bonus feature watching.
Yeah. But I'm curious about this one. I might be curious. It might be good to do it when I actually get to watch all 3 of them, because I still haven't seen Paradox. But
he's basically playing his character from that Masters of Horror episode he was in. John Goodman.
I never saw that either.
Masters of Horror. Each episode is a 1-hour movie by a different horror director.
Good deal. This was fun.
I think it's a season 2 episode. I can't remember who directed it. But yeah, look up John Goodman, Masters of Horror. And he's a serial killer who like keeps his victims' bodies and pretends they're alive.
Okay.
In a bunker like this, and well, it's very very close. I feel like whoever wrote this was inspired by that to a large degree.
The IMDb did not mention that, but they mentioned that it's not his first time in a bunker, because apparently he also had a bunker in Matinee, but that was a very different movie from what I understand. I still need to see Matinee. But anywho, I was just trying to look that up real quick, but I'm not seeing it yet. But you don't know the name of the episode, do you?
I want to say Home.
Home.
Or something to that effect.
Okay. I'm not seeing it yet, but maybe I'll find that. But
I'm almost there.
Okay.
It was called Family.
Family. I knew it was something close to like something like that. Home or Family. Does it say the director on that?
Let me, because I was just looking on Reddit and someone mentioned the title. So, Family.
John Landis. That was a John Landis episode.
Okay.
It wasn't particularly funny, so it didn't come off as John Landis to me right away.
Yeah, but Mick Garris was a writer on that one. So. And he was
probably why the story's good.
He was the go-to for Stephen King to make some of his adaptations.
Yeah, like The Stand, and Mick Garris did Critters 2 and a bunch of quite a lot of other fun stuff, like including Hocus Pocus.
Would that have been listed as a?
It's listed as like a TV episode, I think.
I'm trying to find it on.
At one point in time, they were hour episodes of a TV series, but then they released them as standalone movies.
Right. I'm trying to find it on IMDb, and I'm not seeing under John Goodman. I'm not seeing anything for Family or Masters of Horror, but I could just be missing it because he has a shit ton of credits.
That is actually him, right? Like, I remember it as him, like, in my mind.
No, it doesn't look like it was him. George Wendt, who played...
Oh, George Wendt.
Son of a bitch. The dude looks almost exactly like him.
George Wendt, who played good old lovable Norm!
Norm! Exactly.
Well, look at that dude's face. Cut me a break.
Well, they do tend to play... similar roles.
The same guy.
I think Goodman has a lot more range than Wendt does, but still, Wendt is Norm, so that's
and identical twin. It's on Tubi, by the way.
And Wendt, on Tubi. George Wendt did star in House, so that might be one of the reasons why you were trying to think Home. But anyway, back to the. Subject at hand. I'm
proven wrong. Goddamn. Anyway,
so he's like, I need y'all's help with something. So he opens this cabinet and he starts talking about, was it perchloric acid? I think it is. Yeah. And he says right at the top what it does to flesh. And it's like, this is not going anywhere pleasant. And it's shortly after, I think, that the two have become, they're convinced that this girl's missing and that this guy knows something about it. And as soon as he mentions what happens to Flesh, we're like, yeah, we know where Brittany ended up. And he has this very tense standoff with them where he's dumping their stuff in there that they've been using to create whatever they're creating. He makes it very clear that he's on to them. He doesn't necessarily know what he's on to, but he's on to them. And
makes a clean.
He found a scissors and a thing of duct tape.
Right. And a few other accoutrements. And we see a scene where he had interrupted Michelle in her room, and she shoved what she was working on under the mattress, and we see it peeking out, and we see him looking at it, and he knows something's there. It might have been when he went in to get her to say, I need help. I can't remember exactly, but whatever the case, he gets them really worked up.
Pretty sure that happened after.
What's that?
Pretty sure that was after, because there's like what seems like at least a good amount of time in between this and when he finds her stuff.
Yep, because as soon as he finds the stuff, he asks like which one of them was up to something, and Emmett takes the ball.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like the scene where he sees something in her room was before that, because
no, that was after.
I thought it was after this that she almost immediately tried to get the hell out. Yeah, it was right after this. She tried to get the hell out of there.
Yeah, he sees the suit. She's working on a suit to like try to withstand the air.
Yeah. So
she gets the idea from seeing like a duck in a firefighter costume in a magazine.
Well, no, I think it was the shower curtain, actually.
Well, they convince him. They sort of trick him into throwing away the shower curtain so that they can use it for material.
Right.
Like, wow, that thing must be really contaminated after she went outside. And then he just kind of pauses and like throws it away down the chute.
Right.
I actually kind of like that because he really gets Howard to play with it, with his sanitary, control issues.
And that's
when he just simply goes in for some water and like, oh, by the way, don't you think she could have contaminated that shower just a little bit, and then walks right out?
And that's where I said before, like Emmett, he doesn't seem like the coldest beer in the fridge, as they say. And he talks about how he had a chance to go to college on a scholarship and decided not to do it. He just couldn't bring himself to leave home. And you get the very strong impression that he doesn't think he's that smart, and that he wishes he had tried harder. But later on, when they're working together, it becomes clear that he might not be book smart, but he's not entirely stupid. And he does play Howard a little bit in those scenes, which is really great to see. But unfortunately, when they have the big confrontation, and Howard basically demands that they apologize. He's like, he throws it at them again. You wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for me. This is the thanks I get, that kind of thing. Like, just gives them a total, dressing down, guilt trip, what have you. And Emmett, I'm trying to remember entirely what happened, but there was something about, I think Emmett
tries to play on the, I guess, control that John Goodman has over the situation. It's like, I wanted to make a weapon so that she'd respect me like she respects you.
Right.
I just wanted to have it for me. Like, there was nothing else to it.
Right.
Yeah. And just playing into like the freak serial killerness like
Right.
logic that the character has, and
Right.
I didn't think it was going to work, but it looks like it makes perfect sense to the guy.
Right.
But then what happens? Will happen.
Well,
It has to happen, but
and Emmett, and this was just, I thought it was a great moment, but Emmett does that. He says that, he makes that, and he's like, and you know what, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. And Howard just considers him, and he says, I accept your apology. And then without missing a beat, he pulls the gun and kills Emmett. And it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah, I was like, where the hell did that come from, man? I was like,
Yeah.
boom, it's like,
it's okay. Well, if that's how you accept apologies.
I was just as shocked as like the look on Michelle's face was when he did that.
Well, it is very sudden. Because I mean,
Yeah.
he's gotten violent before, but well, not lethally, of course, but
Right.
at least that we've seen.
Right. Well, you kind of knew once he showed them the vat of acid that something was going to happen. And I think she probably was less shocked than she would have been. But
to show you
still, what's that?
I think he said, I think it's time to show you the drum, but
Right.
before you know, they pull it out and stuff. But
Like,
anyways, they do have that moment where he sees her, you know, what she's been working on, and he literally,
well, in between this and that, he tells her to go to her room, and I remembered this kind of vividly. Like,
right.
She still has the ticket. When Emmett told her that story, she still has the bus ticket that he had kept for all that time, and she's just like looking at it and like thinking about him and like those missed chances.
Okay.
And that's when she really starts working on the suit again.
Okay.
And that barges in, and she doesn't have enough time to like completely hide it under the bed. He almost she has to hide part of it in the vent, and he almost pegs like there's something up with the vent. He checks it, like he doesn't find the thing that's like shoved kind of back far in there.
He's walking out of the door, and one of the screws falls, like, and clues him into, wait, what's going on?
And he's like, why are you messing with that? It's like, I wasn't.
Yeah.
That's been doing that for a while. I don't know what's going on with
right. Okay, so okay, yeah, you guys were right, because there was another scene where she goes back and sees what's becoming of Emmett, and before, okay.
Well,
she's running
after she grabs everything.
After she she's able to like lock him in there briefly. I mean, I figured he'd have some sort of secret like latch or something that only he would know about that would open that door. So because he does come out of there pretty quick. But she's running to like try and make her escape, and she just sees Emmett like in, you know, a vat like dissolving, and it's like ugh.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. I mean, it clearly does. It doesn't seem to burn like organic stuff as quickly as he claims, though.
Well, I don't know if he said it was super quick so much as effective, but whatever the case, she gets the suit on, and she ends up. They get into they almost get into a scuffle, or sort of get into a scuffle. She ends up kicking the vat over on him while he's on the ground. And
she kicks it over first, and he slips into it.
Oh yeah, right. And she kind of gets over, manages somehow to almost pole vault over, get the hell out of Dodge, or tries to anyway.
Yeah, she doesn't have the suit with him. Like with her, the suit is still like locked in her room. So like she basically like runs past the vat. Like he comes into the room, she kicks the vat over. He takes a step towards her. He slips. He falls like face first in this big ass puddle of stuff.
Right.
And then she does like this thing where she kind of hurdles one of the shelves and is able to like jump through the doorway with like propping herself with both arms. She does like a gymnast move
Right.
through there.
Right.
And then she runs back to her room. She grabs the helmet thing, and then she grabs the suit. And she isn't able to put it on yet either. That's kind of an important part of this. Like, she's just able to like tie it to her leg and like climb into another vent.
Right. And meanwhile, the not only has Howard been injured by the acid also destroys an electrical wire and sparks a fire that starts burning the place.
And Howard is actually able to get back up and is starting to follow her, but she is able to knock over like one of those shelves that has all this food on it, and another shelf, I think, and is able to somewhat like hop over that shelf and then get into that vent that'll lead her out to the outside.
Yeah, I thought he got hit harder by the acid, but it seems like he wasn't.
Well, he got hit pretty. Yeah, he had some nasty wounds going on, but not. Yeah, you thought it was going to be worse.
I thought it would kill him, but
going.
Not quite yet. Like,
he's not bad enough off that as she's crawling through the vent. As she's crawling through the vent, all of a sudden a knife comes right in front of her, and it's a heavy duty blade he's putting through.
It's a military knife.
It looks like a pretty thin vent, even for like a vent. It looked like pretty thin metal. I mean, I have probably 4 or 5 knives that could do that easier.
Right.
Still, it did look like a Crocodile Dundee knife, kind of. Sort of.
It looked kind of like a buck knife, like the buck knife used in Scream, It looked like a 7 by 2 blade.
It might even be smaller than the one in Scream, but yeah, it's sort of in that ballpark, I would say.
There's a 5-inch version of the one from Scream. It looked kind of like that, honestly.
Right. But whatever the case, it certainly does enough to freak her out quite a bit as she's trying to get through without getting perforated.
I think he does get her, but not in anywhere really important.
Well, he may be. I didn't catch this, but I wonder if he's the reason why the suit had a tear in the leg.
I think I
think
he caught part of the suit at one point, but he didn't get her.
So
he was like stabbing behind her at some point.
The suit got ripped when she tried to get into the truck later on.
Oh, okay. Yep. Okay. So she does manage to get free of him.
I think she noticed the suit was ripped when she tried to get into the truck.
Well, and
it looked like there was some red stuff around it, so it looked like maybe he like caught her a little bit like on the leg, and like she just didn't feel it or notice it.
Well, regardless, she manages to get into the room. She manages to throw the suit on.
And also he kind of sort of warns her. You don't know what those monsters are like out there. You don't know what else.
He just all he said was, "You don't know what's out there," because we still didn't know there were monsters.
And she knows. Well, it's interesting though. He mentioned a bunch of possible theories. And one of the ones he mentioned actually, or either he mentioned or Emmett mentioned it and attributed it to him. But one of them actually turned out to be almost right. The one about the alien worm monsters or whatever it was. I think Emmett said something about that. It kind of mocked him, but that actually turned out to be pretty close.
Very funny.
There was a moment where the lights like kind of flickered and for quite a while, quite a moment, and
that seemingly alien, that what looked like a ship that ended up being like a techno creature.
Mm-hmm.
There was some talk about we got a hint about that earlier in the film too, with when that lady came. It's like, what? No, but the air is poison. It's like, no, it's only poison if it touches you. Or if they touch you. So it was like, okay, so there is something out there, but you need contact with it. The air itself is okay. What that ended up being was the that thing can like fumigate like clouds down.
Right. It's almost, you could almost say it was almost like they were crop dusting, only they were kind of, I guess, dusting for
Well, it
Life
warm,
forms.
if
it
nothing else, for
wasn't
warm-blooded mammals, maybe for animals generally. It's kind of hard to say for sure, but it obviously affects pigs and humans. But
maybe it's an advanced version of Agent Orange.
well, something along those lines.
Yeah.
Maybe. But at any rate, she gets the suit on. She gets to the latch to get out. Howard had actually taught her a trick of, he had this like stuff that
It was like Freon, right?
Freon or something or whatever, but he sprayed it and concentrated. There was actually a scene earlier that was kind of nice. I think it was when he had her sew him up, that he gave her some quote unquote vodka, that he's like, it's safe, I distilled it myself. And she tastes it and makes this rotten face. And he's like, I said it was safe. I didn't say it was any good. But
I would have to say it's like moonshine.
Yeah, it was probably moonshine. But like I said, he called it vodka, but it was a type of moonshine. But and I've had experience with homebrewed moonshine. I know, but he had used the device then to freeze he's like, do you want it on the rocks? And so instead of doing, ice, he used that little thing to spray the metal cup to freeze it, which was a really cool idea, definitely. But she used that same idea to freeze the lock and bust the lock and get out of there.
So here, I thought we were going to get a twist moment, like, because he said you could break something made of metal with it.
Right.
I thought it was going to be, you actually really couldn't, at least not with like that amount of Freon, because he knew they would maybe try to use that to escape through that locked window, and it was a trap to get them to like waste resources and time on that. And then when she got up there, I thought maybe it wouldn't work, especially when it didn't work right away. It was like, oh, is he bullshitting her?
Yeah. I didn't really think that, but I did think like, oh wow, this is what's she going to do? But there is a bit of a twist, and that's when they get outside and she's walking around in her suit, whatever. And then, yes, she does notice the tear in the suit, and she starts freaking out. And then she looks up and she sees, well, I think she heard the birds first. She hears all these birds, and she looks up and she sees geese flying overhead, and she's like,
well, if those birds can actually fly out in this air, then why the hell am I wearing this suit?
And she takes the mask off and she's like, huh. And I think, if I'm remembering correctly, I think that's when she sees the machine off in the flying off in the distance. She like gets up on the truck for a better look, and she sees this flying thing, and she sees something snake down and drop something into the cornfields, and then she sees movement coming her way. And that's when she has that encounter with the that weird creature, that she ends up running into a shed.
And it's definitely not he who
Well,
walks
first,
away.
the whole thing explodes.
Yeah, the bunker
explodes.
During that whole sequence, we were getting close-ups of something that was like danger, high voltage, like getting overloaded.
Yeah.
After those wires burned and the fire started, because I guess the current was still going. Like it didn't short it out; it just kept drawing on it, and eventually the acid got to that thing. And so we see an explosion, and a small explosion in like a little part of the property, And it's like, huh, what's that? And then we see a giant fireball rocket out of the window that she escaped from. And it's like, oh, okay, good. He's hopefully dead.
Right.
Because I kept expecting him to like show up with his gun like at any point. Like he had a way he could have just like walked outside at any time.
Right.
That was one of the twists I was expecting that didn't happen. We did kind of miss, there was a moment where she saw the ship and was like, really? And I appreciated that quite a bit.
Right. Yeah, it's like, so she sees that something is going on. She realizes that yes, there is danger, and especially when we see that cloud of green dust or whatever the hell it is come down. She fights with that. Well, not really fights, but she has to escape the creature. But then the truck gets picked up by the ship, and she ends up improvising a Molotov cocktail and throwing it right into the mouth of this creature.
And the mouth of this creature kind of reminds me of like the inside of a squid, because it's got that bird-like beak
a little bit.
Tentacles and whatnot.
It looked more kind of rasping. It looked more rasping to me, kind of like a snail almost. Like just looking at that like three lobed kind of like hatch sort of thing in there. I couldn't tell if there was a beak on the outside. I was more fixed on that.
There was a beak.
It was pretty wild, whatever it was. And it was definitely not friendly.
Life, don't they? When they want something weird, right?
It was definitely not friendly.
Reminded me of the Kraken, like in Pirates.
Right. But yeah, like I said, she manages to defeat it by throwing. She sees the lighter on the seat. She sees a bottle of, I think it was Glenlivet, some sort of scotch. She sees rags. She throws together a Molotov cocktail. Waits
the road map.
Right moment. What's that?
She rips some pages out of like the road atlas.
Right. And she has a rough landing when the truck falls to the ground, but that's better than going in the other direction, I'm sure.
It's kind of wild. Like she manages to get it right into its mouth, and when the bottle breaks or whatever, it really goes up. Like that whole thing, just what a conflagration just from that. Right. So they must be flammable from the inside.
Right.
For sure. I would bet somehow it hit that one of those gas sacks or whatever would have to be in there. And I thought, isn't she gonna like just plummet and like be destroyed? And it kind of almost gently lets her down. Like it's still holding her as it falls and as the truck falls. So the truck hits hard, but not all that hard. She's only out for like a second or two. It looks
like not as bad as it could have been, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And then she goes to the other car and manages well, at one point she had actually found the body of the woman and gotten the keys off of her. I think because she tried to get into the car and set off the alarm, and that had drawn the creature to the farm actually. And she grabbed the keys and turned the alarm off, but it was already
there.
Yeah.
Although she did use it to distract it again.
Yeah.
The creature was trying to get in.
Right. But she did manage, having the keys handy, she got in the car, took off. We see the mailbox that said Cloverfeild Lane, and we're like, oh, okay. Yeah. And then as she's driving away, she hears chatter on the radio finally, because there had been no radio chatter. And it was one of the reasons why Howard believed that everything was done, was he had no radio signal in the bunker. And she hears radio chatter and listens to it for a minute. She hears something about essentially a rebellion against the invaders that was in Houston, I believe. And she does a quick almost
That-
a U-turn and
that
heads
was
to Houston. What's that?
Go ahead. You were almost done.
Oh, I was just saying she heads to Houston, and that's pretty much
That was maybe the craziest part of the movie.
yeah.
It was like, the invaders can be beaten. The military has taken back the eastern seaboard.
Right.
If you are not in the safe zone in Baton Rouge, and it was very. It reminded me a lot of the opening of Doom Eternal, if anybody knows what that was like. With that like announcement, like "Please save us," except
I
it was a
do
bit more
remember that.
hopeful than that.
Right.
It was like, if you can fight, if you have medical or military training, we need you.
Right.
And she comes to like the perfect crossroad too, like Baton Rouge forward, Houston left.
Right.
And she turns left, and you can see some of the ships kind of far off in the distance. It's like, damn. And what was she doing before this? She said she wanted to study fashion, but was she in the military, or
no?
She had just gotten all that training in, like, from surviving the bunker.
I guess, but
Possibly from that previous relationship of hers too.
Well, Howard actually pointed out to her when he learns about her interest in fashion design that he's like, well, yeah, of course she can sew. Like, I think he kind of assumed she could sew because she was a woman, but once he learned what her interest was, it does make sense, and that could be valuable medical training, you might say.
Yeah, he had her sew him up after like her first escape attempt. Duh,
Exactly.
Of course.
Yeah.
So that would be medical training. God
Exactly.
damn.
Yeah. And then and Dustin, you briefly mentioned. I just want to mention I like that final shot where we see the lightning flashing and just the silhouettes of the machines off in the distance. I'm like, that's kind of a fun, ominous visual to leave us with.
Well, yeah, because it looked like there was a mother fucking ship in the fucking clouds there.
It was really, really big. It was a lot bigger. Like, there were little ones that were kind of like when you see a satellite at night, like little like blips of light, but you could tell it was like a thing. And then there was just that giant one off in the corner. And it's like, whoa.
Right. Yeah, that was
kind of like, what is happening?
So anyway, that's pretty much the plot. Anyone have anything else they want to add on that before we head into production and so forth?
It was great. Everything looked good.
Pretty much covered all the bases.
The music drops were creepy.
Okay. So this one obviously is not a found footage movie. So visually it's very different from Cloverfield. But it's much more steady cam and for the most part, very tight enclosed spaces. Very few scenes take place outside, and they're mostly at the end of the movie. So we've talked about a couple bits here and there, but like just generally with the production, what are y'all's thoughts about? Y'all think it's a good looking film? Yeah. Think they did a good job with the set design and all that stuff?
I think they did a phenomenal job with the set design. It definitely did look like a bunker that a survivalist would have set up if he were so afraid of anything happening. I mean, he had entertainment, music, food to last like forever, So I thought it was a very good film.
A lockable dungeon room.
Yes. Yeah. I think he did mention how much food was down there, but I can't remember exactly how much it was, but it was a bit. But yeah. But you, Tammy.
That really should have been our first clue something was messed up, because why would you need like a bare room with like a mattress,
Right.
I think the production was good. I mean, like I said, the bunker seemed very realistic, and definitely how somebody would have set it up. He had like it's, when he gave her the tour, he even said, "There's a full kitchen, there's a fridge, there's a freezer, there's this, we saw all the shelves with the non-perishable stuff in them on them and everything, Um, it seemed like he definitely um, it was believable about how it was reinforced and everything. Um, and then later, when you actually saw the outside and what you did see of the ships and the creatures and stuff, it was, yeah. They seem. Oh, jeez, I just got run over by a cat. Um, um, it seemed very, yeah, but very believable about that these things are out there. You know.
Right. Good deal. Um, and yeah, I think they did a good job, and the effects I thought were pretty solid, and the I don't know if this one had like an enormous budget, but it definitely doesn't look cheap. Like I think it definitely looks like they did a really good job with
It
that.
looks like a theatrical release, yeah.
Right. And again, I did see it in the theaters, and it was very impressive on the big screen.
I mean, I just had a comment. So when when I was like waiting for, okay, I bet it's my turn to talk about effects soon. And it's like I was just rehearsing in my head. It's like, well, there weren't really that many effects. I mean, everything looked fine. And then I realized, it's like, we have CGI monsters at the end. They looked so good that I forgot they were effects. Like, so that's kind of my comment on the effects, the quality of the effects there.
I have to take some
Okay, so
Chrome crawler thing did look a little phony in a couple shots, but I forgot there were effects in this. Like they blended into the movie so organically,
The budget was an estimated $15 million.
Okay. So by today's standards, it's a low budget film, which is kind of weird to say, but
this was only a 2016 movie.
Right. But the just an interesting thing that I find very strange is that apparently the Fright Meter Awards, which awarded Best Actor in a Leading Role to John Goodman and awarded or nominated Mary Elizabeth Winstead and John Gallagher Jr., apparently they were the only organization. No, the Blood Guts UK Horror Awards, which also awarded John Goodman for actor. Everyone else put him at supporting actor. And I'm like, oh, the Fangoria Awards also gave him Best Actor. But everyone else had him at supporting. And I'm like, I feel like he should have been a full co-lead in this one. Everyone's got Mary Elizabeth Winstead as full lead. So it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird that they did that. But anyway, the movie did get a bunch of awards and nominations from various organizations like the ones I mentioned, Saturn Awards and so forth. Music. We mentioned a couple of the songs that were played. One thing that I find very strange, especially given Damien Chazelle's involvement, because music is a huge and integral part of Whiplash and La La Land and Babylon. It's a huge part and great part of it. I honestly thought personally that the score was good, but a little overused in this one. I don't know what y'all's thoughts were on that, but I felt like the score was a little heavy-handed at times. Music by Bear McCreary, who has done some good stuff. And again, it's good here. It's just Well, what were y'all's thoughts on the music?
Well, Bear McCreary is a very good
McCree's
composer.
awesome. He's done like
Yeah.
so many movies I love.
I mean, he did the music for Black Sails. He
Oh, yeah.
did it for
Godzilla, King of the Monsters, Child's Play remake.
Did the Last Voyage of the Demeter. He did a
Pretty
bunch
much
of
everything cool.
The Walking Dead. And again, I don't think the music was bad, but do y'all agree with me that maybe
It wasn't very noticeable. Like I don't remember any moments where the score kicked in.
See, I thought it was too.
I mean, I remember
Fun
music from
center.
the jukebox during some of those like
music,
sequences of time passing.
I think the jukebox music was very well used. I think it was really well, but we already talked a little bit before about the songs. I think we're alone now, and tell him. There also was
Spiders.
at one
And then
point,
Frankie Avalon with
they played
Venus, and
Frankie
then
Avalon.
Habitual Line Stepper by Periphery.
Right. But yeah. So overall, interesting usage there for the most part. Anyone have any more that they want to throw out before we do favorites?
Nope.
Okay. Well, that being the case, let's start with you, Dave. We'll say your favorite character, favorite scene, and since this is a movie that it's basically a single space movie for all intents and purposes. What would be another really awesome movie that pretty much takes place on a single set that you'd like to see us do one of these days?
Okay. Well, let's start with my favorite character. I think my favorite character is Howard.
Okay.
Because John Goodman is a very good actor, and he played the Psycho very well in here. And he made it believable. So to me, that was awesome. Favorite scenes? I'm gonna have to say when the car crash happened, because it happened so quickly. It was yes, it was a jump scare, but it was a what the fuck jump scare, you know. And then I also think when he blows Emmett away, and then I do think that when she escapes is another good scene. I do like the monsters, even though we barely get to see much of it. Like I wouldn't mind a spin-off of this film if there was any, you know, if they actually ever did something, because Paradox was not it. But I mean, I'm glad that film connected with the first one, but we never really got to see what happened to her, and I would have liked to have seen what happened to her eventually, you know.
So like sort of like a movie of maybe what happened once she joined the resistance in Houston, like that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think I'd like to see us do the movie Passengers.
You talking about the one with Christopher Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence on the spaceship? Yep. Yeah, that's an interesting one. It's very strange, but interesting. All right. How about you, Tammy?
I guess my favorite actors. I like Michelle. I like how strong-willed she is, and you know, a survivalist, and favorite scenes. Well, I like when she blows up the alien. That was totally cool.
Right.
I did not expect
That
it
part
to
was
be
cool.
as big as it was. I
Right.
thought, okay, it's just gonna blow up enough to like drop her, right? I didn't expect it to be as extravagant as it ended up being. It's like,
Hindenburg
wow.
2.0.
It's possible that again, it was a bottle, I believe, of Glenlivet, but it's possible that Howard used existing bottles and filled them with his homemade hooch, and maybe that stuff was like 150 proof.
Well, yeah, I get it, but it's just I didn't expect that to cause all of
Right.
that.
Right.
You know, you
Um,
know. So it was like, wow.
Hmm.
you know.
Right.
Um. Um. I do like the whole sequence of how she gets out.
Hmm.
The she locks him in the thing. He gets out. She dumps the thing over. He gets in that that whole little thing of how she gets out. It
Right.
keep it keeps you on edge. Like, is she gonna get out? Is she, you know what I mean? It's like she's running from here to here, and she's jumping over this, jumping over that, knocking this. You know what I mean? It's just,
Hmm.
it keeps you like on your toes about, is she gonna actually finally get out?
Right.
So, um, as far as I don't know what to say for a movie like you were talking.
Nothing comes to mind that pretty much takes place on a single stage, like a room or a building or whatever.
No.
Okay. All righty.
Panic
How
Room is another one.
about you, Dustin?
Well, I think for a favorite moment, I would have to have the. Oh my god, it pisses me off that I don't perfectly remember the quote because I usually do.
Mm-hmm.
But when she like sees the ship, and it's clearly like something not of Earth,
Right.
and she's just like, "Are you serious?" Like,
Right.
I
Yeah.
just feel like, ugh, like that moment. I think that really did it for me. That was great. I mean, as a character, I think I want to give Emmett some credit for just being like, "Oh, hey, I'm here too," and just going from the guy who doesn't ask questions to like, "Okay, like
Mm-hmm.
she's totally right. How do we get out of here?"
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like he's known this guy for years, and he's suddenly like, "Oh, this makes so much sense." Like
Mhm.
after she is like, "Hey, wait a minute, do you think this could be the case?" And he's just like, "Holy shit, yes!" And he's just on board right away. And he is smarter than he gave himself credit for.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're doing the school athlete thing, your grades don't necessarily matter all that much like you think they would.
Right.
It's like, oh wow, I missed all these questions that you filled out on this different sheet of paper. You pass.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure he would have been fine if he'd been able to go. And I always feel bad for people who can't get past stuff like that keeps them down. That's like in their mind. Like I
Right.
don't really blame them for it though, because I have a lot of that too. But so I liked Emmett, I think, for those reasons. Although like she was great,
Mm-hmm.
and oh man, Goodman was so scary. Like holy crap! Like I'm not gonna go into it. Well, I'll tell you after, because there was somebody that his like the first time we see him kind of snap, and it's like, are you questioning me? How are you so ungrateful? That reminded me directly of like somebody I've had those arguments with. So.
Okay.
Yep.
And did you have a thought of a movie, single location movie that you'd like to hoping that we'll give a look at eventually?
As soon as you said that, I started trying to think of like, okay, what are single location movies? And it's like, damn, I
Films
can't
that
really
are-
think
that
of
are
any.
done
I feel like maybe
in-
Saw. Saw is mostly a single location movie.
Saw would work, yeah.
Saw counts? Okay, yeah, Saw would be fun. I don't think we've covered that, have we?
Nope.
I don't remember doing
I'm
it.
kind of surprised we haven't really. But
Or really, most of the Saw movies would probably count.
I've had no
Saw
desire
1 and
to
2,
go past the
at least
first
Saw 1 and 2,
one.
or Saw X. Saw X would count. Because they all take place in like warehouses and shit.
Right.
Maybe a killer lair or two.
All right.
I wonder if
But,
Q would fall into that.
So Howard actually had a couple of lines that were very interesting that I had meant to mention earlier. One that actually are not bad lines. They actually have some sense to them. But given his character, it gives them a whole other meaning. One of them is where he's saying, people are strange creatures. You can't always convince them that safety is in their best interest. And another one is crazy is building your ark after the flood has already come. It's like, yeah, okay, I could see that. But very, that seems like textbook conspiracy theorist 101 kind of right there. But anyway, for me, if we were using the term favorite, Michelle would probably be my favorite. I give Emmett points too, but I do. Michelle's definitely a good final girl character. She's fun. She's good to root for. I cannot say Howard is a favorite, but between how friggin' horrifying he is and how good Goodman's performance is, I love when he's on screen. So like is a great character. He's the most notable character in the movie, I think. But I couldn't say favorite. As far as scenes,
He's almost as unhinged as Russell Crowe was in Unhinged.
I still need to see Unhinged. I've not seen that one, but yeah, it's interesting to see. I think the only other time I've seen him play a character that was more evil that I've seen was where he played the Bible salesman in Oh Brother Where Art Thou. That was a straight up evil character, but he was charming and likable in that one until you learned what he really was. Even his character in Barton Fink, I thought was more sympathetic than this character is. And that one, again, he's a straight up serial killer in that one. But it's interesting. But anyway, as far as scenes go, even though I like Emmett and I didn't like seeing him bite it, the scene where he gets just capped out of nowhere, I just loved how effective that scene was. And that was one of the most notable ones. And again, that scene at the very end where we see the lights flashing and we see those huge ship silhouettes in the distance, I just thought that was a great shot. So those would probably be my favorite scenes. One that comes to mind when I think of single space movies that I'd really like to see one day. We did Psycho here, right? I believe we did that a couple of years back.
Yes, we did.
Is that the only?
That was a really early title for us.
Is that the only Hitchcock movie we've done on this channel?
I think we did Birds.
Yeah, I think we did.
I think you're right
We
about
did
that.
Birds. We might have done Rear Window.
So
I like Rear Window. So
did we do
I might
Rear
pick
Window?
that.
I don't think we did. We do Rear
I don't
Window?
think we covered Rear Window yet.
Rear Window would actually work for what I was talking about. But the one I was thinking of was another Jimmy Stewart movie. Rear Window, Jimmy Stewart plays someone who's kind of
Abominable.
Vertigo?
No.
Were you thinking Vertigo?
single room movies. The movie Rope was a lot of fun, and I really want to do that one of these days. But Rope was one where Stewart played a very morally compromised character. He played a professor who encouraged his kids, his students, to look at murder a little differently than typical. And so he finds himself embroiled in a murder. And it's a really good movie, and I enjoy it. That one and Rear Window would both be good ones to hit one of these days. But
I was only half joking when I said Abominable, like the 2004 Bigfoot movie.
I've actually seen that.
Because that is Rear Window. It just has Bigfoot.
Oh, wait. No. You're thinking of... No, I'm thinking of something else.
I'm thinking of
an animated film.
Oh,
that's a very different
not animated. No, Abominable. It's like 2005, 6 around that time. It's like a really like gnarly, bloody Bigfoot movie.
I definitely have seen.
It's like it is basically Rear Window. Like this guy is stuck in his cabin, and Bigfoot is attacking this like cabin full of girls, like a few like next door ish, because it's still the woods. And he has no way to, he's trying to like warn them, hey, stuff is happening. But, you know, they wander outside for random reasons. Or Bigfoot just bashes in through the window and, you know, pulls one of them outside.
Oh, yeah.
And big enough to them, they don't hear it, you know?
The two versions of Funny Games are based on the same story that Rope was based on.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't realize that was the same origin. I know Rope was based on a stage play.
It was based on a stage play, but it was also based on an actual real murder.
Okay. Well, the Hitchcock version is based specifically on the play, and it does have a stagey feel to it.
Well, the play is based off of the real murder.
Right.
Actually
happened. Right. So it's worth looking at. But Funny Games is interesting because that was a German film that was remade for an American audience by the original German director. He did both versions of the film, and I've been meaning to watch them, and I just never have. But I've seen a couple films by Michael Haneke, and he's a rough guy to watch. But anyway, so that's 10 Cloverfield Lane. Unless we have anything more to add, I think that about does it, right?
Yeah. So,
okay.
Hopefully you ladies and gentlemen have enjoyed our spooky month series of films that we have discussed on this channel. So like and subscribe if you have not. Let us know down in the comments of what you thought of the film and what you thought of our discussion. We will be back probably next week with something entirely different.
Yes.
But that being said, why don't we tell the audience a little bit about ourselves and what we do? Starting with you, Dustin.
Well, I run the Crypt of Horrors on YouTube, where I collect horror movie stuff, or at least I did before I became destitute. But working on coming back with some new pickup videos. Eventually, I should probably try other content too, because I can make that a little bit better. So I just need to get to a stable place where I can start creating again. But go subscribe to the Crypt of Horrors here on YouTube, and make me feel bad that I'm not uploading stuff, even though I am occasionally shooting stuff here and there. And then I am on Twitter as Cryptaxis. I would like to change all my stuff to Cryptaxis for ease of finding me. But for now, just follow me as Cryptaxis on Twitter or X or whatever. I think that is my handle on other places too, like Blue Sky. And also, my Instagram is, you guessed it, the Crypt of Horrors, which I would again like to shorten into Cryptaxis at some point later. So I post a little bit better on Instagram because it's easier than making like a full video. But yeah, so with that, I'm gonna say goodnight because I really gotta go.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Good night.
Yeah,
Good night.
sorry we were a little late.
Not a problem. In any case, heading over to you, Tammy. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I go on this channel and another one with David and talk with lots of nice people and hear their opinions about all different movies. And I have a collection on my own. And right now, that's basically about it. Now that the summer is over.
Alrighty.
All right.
Heading over to you, Jake. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I am Kotobuki Jake. I am the co-host of Symptom Sin vs. World, a YouTube channel that does all kind of fun, crazy stuff. Mostly our absent compatriot Symptom Sin does most of the fun, crazy stuff, but I join him for pickup videos and for our current series of tabletop horror, where we are going through movies related to Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm not sure what the episode count is up to. I think there are 4 so far, but he's been releasing those on Fridays, so I'm just keep an eye out for new episodes and check those out and check the movies they're based on and what have you. And I meanwhile keep very, very, very busy. I do way more than I need to, and not yet, and not enough. Like, I wish there were like 3 of me, but but you know, in addition to my day job, I'm frequently on the run. I went yesterday on a Virginia Native Plant Society hike and followed it up with another hike on my own. I found some cool fishes at Point of Rocks. And then I try to watch stuff. I'm not always as good at watching stuff as I'd like, but whenever the Halloween season tends to get me to watch a lot of horror movies, and so I've watched a few in the last few days, and of course I also make time to watch movies to join these fine folks for discussions each week, and was glad to finally have an excuse to watch my copy of this one. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I'm up next week, right? With another one that I'll be watching.
Yes.
So if you want me to introduce that at the end, or right?
Sure, I can have you introduce that at the end here.
Okay.
Okay, so my name is David Strege. I'm one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore, so thank you for coming along with us on this spooktacular, spooky season. So that has been the end of our October-themed month, and we start, and I don't think we've entirely themed it yet, have we?
Well, I don't think that we necessarily have a theme for November. It was kind of everyone...
It's kind of like a hodgepodge of different things, because originally it was supposed to be like a birthday month, and then the birthday boy didn't exactly get any of those films in on time, so we just get the extra love of going on about films that we enjoy.
So, yeah.
But I also moonlight under a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where I do go on every Sunday, most of the time. And we just recently covered Rosin from 1998, which is also called Spiral in the Ring franchise, the original one, not the American remake or remake series. So if you get a chance to check that out, go right ahead. And I do believe that next week we are going to be covering The Ghost and Mr. Chicken. So, just for something different. But I do some video pickups and some video reviews from time to time. I just recently finished putting together a Batman fan film from some segments that I put into your Versus Awards. And right before Brandon went off to London and Paris and whatnot, we actually put all three segments together, and it is now a fan film that will be going up onto YouTube for free for everyone to watch eventually this month.
Very good.
So, but going back over to you, Jake, what movie are we going to be watching next week?
Well, real quick, also speaking of our various collaborations between myself and Brandon and Dave here and other friends of the channel. What I was tonight actually, my horror film choice for tonight was Brandon's first feature narrative film, Amityville Webcam. So I just want to do another quick plug for that. Anyone who has not picked up a copy or looked it up, I'm not going to tell you it's great. It's not, but it's a lot of fun, and it does have some great moments in it. In particular, a friend of the channel, Evan Jacobs, has a great cameo in it, and so does Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson is the greatest cameo of all time.
And if you want to pick up a copy of the movie, I do believe that in our bio here of each and every one of our discussions here, there is a link to the Kunaki site that you can buy it at, and I do believe that there is probably a link to the SRS Cinema link to buy the film, but also Tales of the Forgotten One, the Boris short film are all also for sale. So definitely check out that Kanaki site for sure. There are quite a few things there for your horror enthusiast out there. So.
Okay. Good deal. Good happy shopping, folks. And
what is next week's film?
So next week we got something completely different. But it will be a slight return to the Halloween month because it is a film dealing with yokai, which are the Japanese term for spirits. And this is the film is the Hiroyuki Okiura anime Momo e no Tegami, or A Letter to Momo. And it's a warm, uplifting, family-friendly film about spirits. And so it's like, again, keeping the Halloween theme, but a very, very different film from this week's choice. So should be fun. Should be a lot of fun. From Tammy, if you need a selling point, I know you're kind of hesitant on most anime. It is from the same director who is most famous probably for a movie called Jinro the Wolf Brigade. And I know you like your wolves, so
okay.
There you go.
Alrighty. Well, on that note, definitely come back and join us for that discussion. And we'll see you next time here on Inside Movies Galore.
Yeah.
Everyone say good night.
Good night, everyone.
And hopefully you
Good
weren't
night.
too scared.